everyone. This is Pam Reese with Adventures in Aging, and I'm here with my friend
Gary Vanderberg. Well, it's great to be back, Pam, and want to thank our sponsor, Stride Light. Stride Light provides quality diabetic shoes, inserts, foot orthotics, all lower extremity product needs. For over 20 years, their commitment to exceptional customer service and quality products has allowed them to earn the trust of their customers. Ask your doctor or podiatrist about Stride Light, stridelight.net. Thanks, Stride Light. What's
Gary.
our topic today, Pam?
Today, Gary, we are talking about reinventing yourself as we get older.
Oh, I'm all over that. I think I've reinvented myself a few times along the way.
Well, to begin, I'll talk about a story that involves someone that I think all of us at our age group knows, Bruce Springsteen.
Sure, Bruce.
The boss, right?
The boss, yes.
So Bruce Springsteen, for years, sold out concerts, wrote songs that told a story. And in 2017, after years of performing in front of thousands and thousands and thousands of sold-out arenas and stadiums, he decided to reinvent himself. And he thought about a new way to inspire and to tell stories, and so he chose Broadway.
Broadway.
So Bruce Springsteen reinvented himself by going from the concert, rock star, on stage, carefree, to a scripted, smaller stage, smaller audience, but still able to express himself in the way in which he wanted to do that. And he felt accomplished, and he felt as if his life had started over in a whole new way. And so today he's 72 years old and still reinventing himself.
Yeah. I often think when people hit their goals like that, what happens, if you hit the lottery and those types of things, what are you going to do next? So you're really going to reinvent yourself, right?
Yeah.
He couldn't have, at some point I saw him several times, I'm sure. Did you ever see him, Bruce Springsteen?
No, do you remember that was the concert I was invited to by one of his best friends from high school? And then I decided, no, I won't go.
Pass on that one.
Right.
Well, he was a great performer, but I don't know how he could keep on doing it. I know the Rolling Stones, look at their age, and they continue to be great rock and rollers here. But reinvention, well, what is reinvention? Well, it's really, it's recognizing the changes happening to and around you and just making a decision, hey, I want to try something different, right? And when you stop and think about it, this is something can happen at any age, right? And, I've got kids, and they're reinventing themselves along the way with different travels and different hobbies and interests. But I think for myself, I find actually today I'm sitting at a nursing home as an administrator. I kind of reinvented myself the last couple months, going, hey, I wonder if I can still do this. I wonder if I can pull this off, right?
And you're loving it.
Oh, I love every second. And it's just, and the more crazy things that happen in day-to-day life, the more it's interesting. It's different. You got to have a little bit of a passion to it. And I think this topic is going to be great and something that I hope our listeners can enjoy. But what is the first step, do you think, Pam, when it comes into reinventing ourselves?
The first step would be self-understanding, knowing and recognizing what your own strengths and weaknesses are, and then looking at what do you feel is missing in your life, or what can spark in your life. What is something that would motivate you and inspire you, and where are you falling short from doing that? And so one of the first steps would be to literally write down what your interests are, because seeing your interest in writing is so much more impactful than just thinking of those things mentally, and then going through that list and trying to turn those old dreams of the things that you may have been missing into realities.
Okay. Well, I often think too, if you can put a date on something like this year, this month,
yes,
that you're much more likely to at least make a commitment to having something done. I know as our roles change, as you get older, you're moving from child to parent to grandparent, those types of things. And I just saw a program this morning. It was a TV news item, and it was a man and woman, and they're standing in front of their house, and they had a big 0. And what it was meaning was they were celebrating their empty nest. It was hilarious.
Oh, I love that.
And they had on the back of their car, like, our empty nest has begun today. They were actually celebrating that they were done being parents, and now they're ready to be whatever they're going to be next.
Whatever they want.
And so they were really at the beginning of doing that. But, habits really play into this, don't they? Our habits, what we've done.
In fact, our habits is what shapes us. Our habits in life is what made us who we are today. And so often people focus way, way too much on the things they want to change instead of the habits that they formed that made that a thing in the first place. So for instance, people that want to lose weight every year, New Year's Eve, my New Year's resolution is I'm going to get in shape. I'm going to lose weight. And one of the first things they do is join the club, or they start yoga or walking. When at the end of the day, you have to reevaluate your lifestyle and what you've been eating and how you're going to change all of that. Right? Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah. I remember saying to my family doctor one time, I said, I wish you would tell me to lose weight, because then I would lose weight. Isn't it funny? Sometimes we have to get other people to help us break our bad habits. I know for me, procrastination is something I should have gotten an Academy Award.
Oh, my gosh.
Isn't that funny? And I'm sure that has to do with just waiting for that perfect timing, waiting for something that, I don't want to do it unless I can do it right type of mindset. Yeah. And when it comes to reinventing yourself, I'm sure procrastination has got to be the worst thing you can bring into the formula. You really have to stop procrastinating.
I think it's what holds you back. Yes.
Yeah. And I think sometimes it's the people around you too that are either encouraging you or discouraging you.
Well, we can surround ourselves with the right people just as much as we can surround ourselves with the wrong people. And surrounding yourself with the wrong, even things, can disconnect you from who you really are or who you really want to be. And so spending a lot of time, like scrolling through social media and always constantly being on your phone, it's a huge amount of unnecessary information that you probably really don't need. And is this activity really making you reinvent yourself, really creating change in you? Or is it just creating a new mindset, but your actions are still all staying the same? So you think about the people that you have in your life and you evaluate, are they positive? Are they negative? Do they bring you down? Do they pick you up? And so looking at the impact of those relationships is very important in what you do with your own life.
Right. Yeah. But I think sometimes you need people around you that are trying to tell the truth too. Wouldn't you agree that?
I do.
You don't want somebody around there and you're telling your situation and your story saying, oh, well, someday I want to do this. What I love is when people are brutally honest with you, sometimes saying, why don't you do that today? Why don't you start today?
We find a million reasons why not to, right?
Right. But, anytime we can get somebody around us that gives us that tough love or that tough feedback that says that, it really does push us out of our comfort zone, doesn't it, to a certain degree?
Oh, my gosh. So coming out of your comfort zone is probably one of the hardest things that a human being can do. And if you never come out of your comfort zone, you will continue to be who you are. And so growth is actually taking yourself a step at a time out of your comfort zone. And so many people will not move forward, even if they're excited about a new option or a new idea. They're so comfortable in what they have become that it's frightening to go ahead and move into a new area or to be a new you, right?
Right. Yeah. And I know with, as I get older, and I'm sure you find this too, the younger people are coming into the workplace, and us older people are starting to be kind of shuffled out for the whole new wave of things. And actually, people age 55 to 64 is the fastest growing entrepreneurs. It's up like 10%.
That's so encouraging.
Over a year. and that people look sometimes at a layoff, they look at a job change as an opportunity. And to be honest, I think they're happier to do that. They're self-motivated. They find things that say, that they're seeking their passion. In fact, there was a study out that said, that entrepreneurs past age 50 cited 42% of them that said, this is fabulous. This is what, they wanted to do. They started by donating their time, their money, their talents. And next thing you know, they became an entrepreneur. They changed their life. They changed the world. Right. So
right.
Stop and think about it. But you always have to keep in mind your health. As you get older, you also want to take into consideration those types of things.
So if you've sat on the couch your whole life, it's not easy getting off of the couch, right? If you've eaten fast food your whole life, it's not easy having a different type of meal in your life. And so you have to think about what your capabilities are, but never give in to the fact of saying, I'm too old or I don't feel as good as I used to, because 90% of the time you're probably going to feel better when you do make a change in your life and you do start thinking a little bit more about what you're eating and how you're moving and your exercise and thinking about those aches and pains and ways in which you can stretch and exercise and alleviate those aches and pains.
Oh, it makes all the difference in the world. And I've seen that in people around me. They changed one or two small things in their diet, and next thing you know, they're losing lots of weight and they're happier and they've reinvented themselves.
Right.
I think one of the other enemies, I guess the word is inertia. Have you ever heard of the word inertia?
Yeah, explain it to me.
That's kind of like where you're just sitting around, I guess, just kind of blobbing around, I guess, a little bit. It's more of a mental thing. If you ever do look at reinventing yourself as a chore, right, as something out of, it's never going to happen. But, one thing that if you look at anything that's happened in your life, whether it's getting married, going to school, changing jobs, having kids, whatever it might be, one thing that you have to realize all of us are pretty good at, and that is adapting. Aren't we? We can adapt to new situations. If something changes, with coronaviruses, right, earthquakes, disasters, wars, whatever it is, guess what? People figure out a way to adapt, don't they? They change. So that's within each of us. It's just trying to figure out how to take that and make it, part of our lifelong learning and lifelong development, right?
Right. And then you have to have a mindset of lifelong learning. Never stop learning. But you want to be careful that you don't have non-influential learning, right? You don't want to learn just to learn. You want to learn something new, and you want to explore the new things, and you want to be aware of trends and things that are happening in life and in your communities and in your areas of interest that maybe you've never explored. But going through a learning process is a huge component of reinventing yourself. Otherwise, you wouldn't know how to get there, and you wouldn't know what it means to be there.
Yeah, I love hanging out in the libraries, right, Pam?
Yes,
I'm
you
one of
do.
those guys.
You do.
But whether it's a library or a bookstore, go in and pick a book off of the shelf of something that is different in your life, just to kind of expand your own horizons. Look at something related to arts, spirituality. Look at something that's different than what you're used to. And it begins to open up your mind to there's more to life than just what I've got. I know one thing that I came across recently, it says making your extra years count, and how, when we were younger, if somebody was 50 or 60 years old, they were old, right?
Yes.
I remember my neighbors, and now I'm thinking, when you're 50, 60 years old, you still got another 30 years in you, don't you?
Yes. When my mom and dad turned 50, I thought they were old.
Yeah. And I read this quote, and it said, the first half of our life is about being interesting. And it says the second half of our life is about being interested. So instead of being interesting, it's now being interested in the world around us. And I think I've said on other podcasts that I find myself sometimes just stopping, staring, and taking it all in.
Yes.
You know what I mean? When it comes to the years that count, and when you think about the opportunities out there, I'm sure I can say this again. I like going to libraries, and I think of the thousands of books there, and I've read a handful. Do you know what I mean?
You like the environment. It feels good. You like looking through the resources.
Yeah, I feel smart. How's that sound? You
I
feel
like
smart
that.
hanging osmosis in the library.
Yes.
But what comes to mind for you, Pam, when it comes to think about the next 30 or 50 years when it comes to being different than in the past?
So being 50 today, being 60 today means something very different than it used to in the past. In the past, you were at over that midlife point. You knew you didn't have the next 40 years to live, 30 years to live. And so that feeling that maybe our grandparents had, was that now you settle in and you prepare for the end. And that's not true anymore. And so I just want to read something to you that I came across that was interesting. Mm-hmm. So it says, you're not at the beginning of the end. You're in the middle of the beginning. Finding a purpose in your life after 50 is figuring that out at a time when you know yourself best. And isn't that true? We will never know ourselves better than we do today.
That is very much the key. The other thing is, I think it has to do with your passion. We all have passions. It's just trying to figure out what those are.
Yes. And
people get in ruts. They go through routines. I know I've talked with my staff here about burnout, stress and burnout. And I really think people could really sit back some point and say, what is it that what revs my engines, right? What am I deeply committed about? And what can I do to really, focus more on those types of things? And I came across something also that said, what would you be willing to give up? What comfort would you be willing to give up to have, to pursue your passion? Yeah. And I was thinking, when I read that, I was thinking, again, and most people know I run marathons and half marathons, and I don't look like a marathon runner at all.
Yeah, but I'm proud of you for it, because you do it.
But I remember when that giving up your comforts. And I remember when I first started doing this, of looking at a goal that was bigger than me, I guess. And part of that was to get out of your comfort zones. And I remember going out when it was raining. It was raining outside, and I said, this is a good day to go out and run. And isn't that crazy? Because it's raining, but you know what? I want to get out of my comfort zone. Another day it was 9:30 at night, and I go, the last thing I feel like doing is running around the block. But you know what? I said, I want to pursue my passion. I want to do this, and I want to do it to the point of sacrificing something that's a comfort. Yeah. And I think sometimes that's some way of looking at that. But why do you think change is hard? Change is a hard thing for all of us.
For everyone. It's a psychological barrier that we get so comfortable in whatever it is we are used to, that the thought of anything different, even if it's appealing to us, is so frightening. So we tend to think more short term than we do long term. And studies have even shown that we consistently offer immediate rewards over later rewards, even if the later rewards are greater, and it makes planning and distant goals very difficult for people. And so even as you age, let's say you're 60 years old, you want to reinvent yourself, or you're Bruce Springsteen at 68, you think, what's the use? Will I be able to accomplish something in the next 20 years? Oh my gosh, I'll be almost 90. And you should never, ever go into that. And the best thing that you can do is you take your youth and you think of everything you've learned from it, and you look at that part of your life as the training ground. You've been trained your whole life, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You bring a lot of talents to any kind of situation. But I think it's also a curiosity. And I was thinking about my current state here of reinventing myself as an administrator. And instead of looking at it as fearful, I actually am looking at it with great curiosity. When somebody comes to me with a problem or a question, I'm like, well, let's go try to figure that out together. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I think there's a way to have a mindset of learning things because of curiosity. And as you kind of reinvent yourself there, think about, well, I don't know how to fix cars, but you know what? I can turn on YouTube and figure out a way and become an auto mechanic. How's that type?
Yes.
Or I can, take art classes and find out whether there's a certain kind of art type of things I want to do and not do. And those types of things are, again, new careers. I mean, it's interesting as I see people getting into different careers, second careers, as they get older in life. And so I think part of that also, again, gets back to, your relationships with others and those around you.
Do you know that the happiest people on earth are older than 55 years old? Who
I
knew?
believe that.
Yeah. You tend to not worry. You tend to have less stress about the things that you can't change. And you've already lived through all those stressful lives. Even though we're attacked with stress every single day, we have just innately learned to deal with it on a whole different level. And so reinventing is happening a lot more intimately in different aspects of our lives than we even realize. And as health issues pop up or shifting family dynamics create different changes with our various relationships, it helps us to define more of who we are and what could be more interesting to us. And so looking at all those changes, the people that were once our best friends probably are not our best friends, or we've had that best friend for 60 years, right?
Right.
But you're meeting people along the way that have influenced you in one way or the other.
Right, and making the most of every day.
Yes.
Sometimes reinventing ourselves is also just making small changes every day, just doing something a little bit each day makes all the difference in the world. I say that I'm getting ready to run one of these half marathons, and just making a little commitment each day, adds on to itself. Does that make sense? So
yes.
you just don't wake up one day. Most people don't just go run off and run 13 miles or 26 miles. So you have to do a little bit like practicing each day and just coming back around. And I like that idea of writing something down, looking at it, kind of, putting a commitment to it. And those small changes actually, do build into bigger changes in yourself and in the world around you.
Interesting. So do you change the world or do you change yourself first? And the answer is obviously you have to change yourself first. The world's a big place, and we're not going to be able to change the world we live in, but we can certainly change who we are, Gary, in life.
Right.
And so
yes,
your world actually exists for as long as you exist, right? Your world is intimate to you as my world is intimate to me. And that world that I live in and you live in are around for as long as we are, but that world isn't as big as the mind would take it. We do have control over our own worlds. And to make radical change in our lifestyle, it begins with doing things that we previously have never even thought of doing. Or we were too hesitant to accept or to attempt. And so now's the time to get rid of that hesitancy and say, why not? Why not?
Yeah. What do you got to lose, right?
Right.
So might as well throw it to the wind there.
That's correct.
Yeah. Well, I think it also ties in with, it's interesting too, spirituality, right?
Yeah.
And what's interesting is one of the core pieces of reinvention for many people is to kind of look at their beliefs and believe it or not, according to a Pew report, that 40% of boomers, which we're in, have switched religions. Isn't that wild? I think I'm one of them, believe it or not.
Yeah.
So I think that happens along the way too, that you kind of just step back and say, where's this heading and what's going on with that? But it's interesting also that over 14 million people over the age of 55 have taken up yoga. Can you believe that?
Yeah. No, I do. And light yoga is a big activity for people in their 70s and 80s.
Right. And meditating,
yes.
going on hikes, cycling, canoeing, all these types of things kind of do get you revved up, do change your approach and do help with your reinventing of yourself.
So on one of our podcasts, we talked about new relationships or enhancing relationships and love in our lives. And in reinventing ourselves, the 50-plus person is in a time period of reinventing new love, reinventing new relationships. And there's so much fear involved with that, though, before they get to that point, that the thought of, swiping right on your cell phone creates ulcers, right? It gives them a migraine headache. They can't even imagine. But once done, once tried, it feels good. And you see that all that fear was needless. So far, in where we are, Gary, you and I in life, we know what we want, right? But sometimes we don't always know how to get there. And so just keeping our minds in the right path, accepting the challenges and the differences and the obstacles is enlightening, and it's rejuvenating.
Right. Yeah, it's like an art form, isn't it? It's
it
almost
is.
like you're a sculptor, when you're hacking away at something. I recently made a trip out to Mount Rushmore, of all things. Never been out there. Always wanted to go and see what's out there. And, you stop and see the magnitude of this big mountain, and they've chiseled faces out of it, and how many years it took, and how many people and technology and everything else like that. But it's the same thing in our own lives. We're our own Mount Rushmores. How's that sound?
Yeah.
So we have to chisel away at what pieces of artwork in our own lives that we want to see, and how to end up developing our own processes in the process there.
So in that process, nothing's a quick fix, right? Nothing happens overnight, but it's a very deliberate practice and process every single day, day in and day out, until you realize who it is you want to be and who you already are.
Yeah.
And who you were all along.
Well, what are you going to reinvent? This is a time here. We got a few minutes. What is it that you'd be interested in reinventing in your life?
I am so intrigued with reinventing. So one of the things I can think of right off the top of my head is this podcast. Never would have dreamed of doing something in this social forum, but was always very interested in it. And I feel a little reinvented by getting through the fear, getting through the thought of not thinking that I could do this. And I love that. And it inspires me to just trying things, even long-term things, maybe not even just a hobby, but maybe changing up a little bit of what I do in my career and how I view different scenarios.
Oh, well, that sounds
What about
good.
you?
Well, I would say that, when I asked it, I guess better write this down because you were going to ask me back. So I would say, a lot of the social media stuff, there's positives, there's negatives. I've kind of, put my fingers in the water. Is that what they call it? But I've never really jumped in. And I think it's probably time for me to jump in because, it is the way it is in the future. It's not going away, and just getting more involved in those things and just getting our messages out through the social media, I think is something that's I got to do. So there's a little bit more of a need to do it rather than a desire. But once I'm in there, I'm sure I'll be in there. So
is there a different type of career or job that you would love to do that you've never done? I'm just asking. I know you haven't thought about it.
Oh, I did. I thought about it. I was just thinking 2 years ago, and I remember probably talking to you. I was like a week away from going and working at the post office.
Oh my gosh, how can I forget? Yes.
Do you remember that?
I do.
There wasn't any really things opening up for me in healthcare, and I go, why not? Why not go and sort paper? I'm kind of one of those people who likes to organize stacks of. I'd love to work somewhere where you just kind of line up the grocery store cans of beans or something like that.
It's mindless, but important.
Yeah. And so, I think I was thinking about that. And, I love working with my son. That's the landscaper. I'm not the strongest guy, but it's great to be outdoors and stand there at the end of the day and see a great work of art. He does it, but stand there and have a sense of accomplishment.
Yes. Just staying active is rejuvenating for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I've enjoyed that and probably more, more art type of things, music appreciation, doing something like that. I'd almost love with the residents here at these retirement centers to have more of a talk about music and talk about,
Yes.
you know, what music was important to them and bring music more into a discussion topic. I think they would enjoy that. I would enjoy it type of thing too. So.
That's for sure. Well, everyone, that brings us to another end of a podcast, but Gary and I are continually looking for ways to reinvent ourselves. Believe you me, we talk about this a lot. And so I'm just going to throw out to our listeners, if you're looking for a way to reinvent yourself, start today. Find your passion, surround yourself with the right positive people, and take that first step in the right direction, and do it as soon as you can. And we will all reach our dreams, right? One day.
Great.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for listening to us. Please share, please subscribe, and we'll see you next time.